What's going on, people? Welcome back to Curtis Shaw TV, back with another live stream. And today we'll be previewing the big game tomorrow as Arsenal go to St James's Park to play Eddie Howe's Newcastle. Not a particularly great game to play after the midweek defeat to West Ham, people. It will be a tricky one. And listen, I think if this team is about that life and they're going to win titles, then you've got to find a way of winning games like this. We did win there last season, which was very good. But this will be a different game. Their confidence is high. They've just smashed Man United 3-0 midweek? And obviously we were beaten 3-1 by West Ham. So listen, big game for Arsenal tomorrow, and we'll see what this team is made of. And big up everyone who tuned in yesterday. We did Arsenal therapy last night. Which was an interesting one. I know it was later than usual. I was out during the day visiting family. So we did a 7 p.m. Arsenal therapy, and I felt it was needed. We got a lot of stats out there. We did a fact along where I got all the facts out. Remember Rafa Benitez back in the day? Facts. I had paperwork about Arteta. But it is what it is. Listen, a lot can change in football in a few days. I'm still very disappointed we were knocked out of the Carabao Cup. I felt it was a great opportunity. Probably our easiest opportunity of winning a trophy, considering no Man United, no Man City, no Tottenham in the competition. I think the FA Cup will be harder. I think the Champions League and the Premier League will definitely be much more difficult. But, listen, it's an opportunity for us to rebuild ourselves this week against Newcastle. Big up to everyone locked in. Hope you're well. Make sure you like this video. Subscribe if you haven't already. We're not far away from 70k. I think we need about another 1,000 and we're there. So let's get there maybe in the next week or so, people. Lawrence said, legendary stream last night. Big C, I have a bad feeling about tomorrow. It's a tricky one, although Alvin said, I'm confident we will beat Newcastle on Saturday. Big up Gold Gunner, who said, big up C Unit. And Badshaw said, big C, we would have drawn Liverpool. Listen, you're going to have to beat some good teams to win it. And who knows, the draw might have gone different if we was in it. Did you see Wemby versus KD? Listen, he's too tall. You know what I mean? He's too tall. What are you supposed to do? It's like a dog trying to jump higher than a giraffe. It ain't going to happen. Wemby's a cheat code, man. But I've had to watch NBA this week to get over that pathetic Carabao Cup game the other night. But anyway, let's move on. Let's look ahead. I've said all I've got to say about that. My overall feeling was that when you're not consistently winning trophies, you should not turn down competitions. And that's pretty much where I'm at with it. We're going to look ahead. We got a lot to talk about today. Press conference reaction from the manager. His press conference was about 9 o'clock this morning. Obviously, the team will have trained, then travelled up to Newcastle this afternoon. So the press conference was nice and early, which is much easier. The game's at 5:30 tomorrow. So I'll be live at 4:30, and I will be doing a Bleacher Report stream straight after the game as well. I'll put the link in the description of the game tomorrow, so make sure you tune in, people. Before we get into today's game or tomorrow's game, and we have a look, I wanted to talk about Emile Smith-Rowe. Damning stats coming out about Smith-Rowe's injury record of recent years. It's very worrying, very concerning. If you watch this channel on a regular basis, you'll know that I'm a very big supporter of Smith-Rowe, and he's somebody that I've really tried to defend. I've said that we shouldn't sell him, and I'm just going to zoom in a little bit on that so you can see that a little bit better. I mean, that is terrible for any player. In particular, a young player or a youngish player, you know. I mean, Emile Smith-Rowe, he's just turned 23, but he hasn't played that much football, really. I mean, he's missed 344 days through injury. That's not including the knee injury now that the manager says will keep him out for weeks. So by the time he comes back, you're talking about a full year of injury for Emile Smith-Rowe. Now, I'm going to be honest. He's borderline. He's borderline. You know, there's a point with any player where no matter how good he is, if he's consistently injured, you've got to cash in on him. You can't. What's the point? You can't afford to carry him. Now, we know Villa made 35, 40 million pound offer for him about a year ago. Unai Emery. Would they come back up? Would they come back for him? I suppose the problem you got now, how much would you get for him? Because they're going to factor this in. You know, oh, he's injury prone. I offered you 40 million then, but now I'm only offering you 25. You wouldn't want to. You wouldn't want to sell him on the cheap, but it's difficult. I said it in the stream the other day. You know, I have a feeling that Smith Rowe, where he was 18 months ago, maybe he's not in that situation now. Where 18 months ago, I think you put him in the category of Saka, Martinelli, Saliba, you know, Odegaard. He was in the mix with those players. Young player, top quality, got in the England squad. You're now looking at it going, you're nowhere near the England squad. You're nowhere near the Arsenal team, and you're injury prone. He's in a tough position. Listen, I don't think they're going to sell him in January. He's going to be out for a number of weeks. He needs to get fit and fight his way back into this team. I think at the end of the season, if he's still in an injury-prone situation and struggling to get into the team, I think the club would be open-minded about moving him on. Like I said, he wouldn't be top of the list because I still think he's better in attacking midfield than Havertz and Fabio Vieira. But if he's consistently getting injured, then you've got a major problem on your hands. So very sad and damning stats for a player that I believed. And I still think he could have a future at Arsenal. I wouldn't get rid of him in January. I'd keep him till the end of the season and see what develops from when he comes back from this injury. But it's not looking great for Emile Smith-Rowe. Big up Shibe in the chat. Yo, Kirtley just reached incoming loan to Luton in January. Nah, he's better than that. Big up Harrison, who's become a new member. Harrison K with a Burkamp picture. And big up Limitless, who I think you have been a member before. Maybe you upgraded. Big up to you, bro. Member stream pending after next weekend. Next weekend is the last game before the international break. So that midweek after that, we'll get an international member stream in. Right, let's look ahead, people. It's Arsenal against Newcastle this weekend, and it's a big game and it's a tough game. Make no mistake about that. This is a tough game for Arsenal this weekend away at Newcastle. I'm going to be honest. If you'd said to me, there's 4 or 5 games this weekend that you don't want to play, this would have been one of them. This would have been one of them. I would have been saying, I don't want to go Man City. I don't want to go to Anfield. I'd rather not go to Tottenham with the form they're in. And I wouldn't want to go to Newcastle. I know we beat them last season, but they've got a spring in their step. They battered PSG. They battered Man United. There is a little gap forming, but they are unbeaten in their last 5 games. They got the same record as us, 3 wins and 2 draws, and they are the joint top scorers in the Premier League this season. So, you know, there's going to be a difficult game up there, and you know, confidence is something that you can't buy, and they won heavily in the week against Man United. We lost quite heavily, so our confidence will have dipped a little bit. Theirs will have gone up. One bit of good news for Arsenal, Alexander Isak is out injured, and he is obviously a very useful player, a player we were linked with. Obviously, Tonali is out as well through the ban because of the betting, but a lot of their other players are available. And it's going to be a difficult game. Now, we did manage to go there last season and beat them, which was a bit of a surprise that we kind of won so comfortably, as we won 2-0. It was kind of as the season was coming to a close, but we need to find that kind of performance again tomorrow. Just looking back on that game last season when we won 1-0, we had a front 3 of Martinelli, Jesus and Saka. So very much, we were ticking over in the right way. The midfield was Jorginho, Xhaka and Odegaard. The back 4 was Ben White, Kivior, Gabriel and Zinchenko. Saliba was injured at that time. And Aaron Ramsdale was in goal. We won 2-0. An own goal by Fabian Schär, and Martin Odegaard scored as well. So, listen, we can beat them, but the circumstances will be much different tomorrow. And it will be a tough game. And I'll be honest with you, which I am always honest on this channel, confidence is not listen, we can beat them, but we could also go... If we went there and lost, I don't think any Arsenal fan would be that surprised. Just based off what happened midweek. There needs to be a response. The team selection is going to be absolutely vital from the manager. Will he pick the right team? What is the right team? Is what I'm saying. Like, at the moment, we're in a bit of a crazy situation where, you know, we will get to that. We will pick a team lineup. We'll get into press conference reaction now. Get it out the way. Get the waffle out the way from early. Got a bit of transfer news to discuss. And we'll pick a team. GT Playboy said, happy 60th birthday to Ian Wright. Wrighty, genuinely, I always say Wrighty was one of the players that probably convinced me to become an Arsenal fan. I genuinely couldn't believe that when they said happy birthday that he was 60 years of age. I thought he might have been 50 years of age, not 60. So big up Wrighty. And SG said, no happy birthday to the PR man, Ian Wright. Listen, I've always said, Wrighty as a player, I was a massive fan of. As a pundit, he plays the game, in my opinion, Wrighty. I think he holds back with some of his true feelings. Listen, I suppose at times it can be difficult because if you're employed by the club, how much can you criticise them? But at times I think he caps too much for the club. And I love Ian Wright. I really love Ian Wright as a player. Was one of my favourite strikers. One of the reasons I supported Arsenal. I think he caps quite a lot for Arsenal. He rates every player, you know. But listen, it is what it is. This is why you make your own channels and you go and watch other content creators, and you've got social media. That's for you to put out your opinion, I suppose. So, you know, it's one of them. That's why people like me, I said, listen, I want to make a channel because I don't always agree with what these guys say. So we got to understand the game is the game sometimes. These guys have retired from football. They got bills to pay. They might, you know, tread the line a little bit to make sure they get a nice check in their bank. It is what it is. But anyway, let's get into press conference reaction. And let's see what the manager's got to say ahead of tomorrow's game, which is a massive, massive game. We will then go through what we believe our team should be tomorrow. There are some question marks for me, people. The midfield, I think, is very... What do you go with? Last season, he put Jorginho next to Xhaka and we won. Do you go with a double pivot again and put Rice next to Jorginho? Do you play him next to El Neni? Do you play Rice as a lone six with two number 8s? Who are your two number 8s? Odegaard and Trossard, Odegaard and Havertz, Odegaard and Fabio? Do you put Zinchenko there? There's so many question marks. And who do you play up front? Do you play Mikel Arteta up front? I said, do you play Mikel Arteta up front? It's been a long week, people. The West Ham defeat's taken its toll. Do you play Eddie Nketiah up front, or do you play Havertz, or do you play Trossard? Neither one of those three are particularly ideal in this situation, which is why we need a striker. LSU said, got to say, I think Wrighty speaks his mind and heart. I do at times. I think times he toes the line, though, a little bit. Yeah, it's been a long week, people. Do you play Arteta up front? It's a mad one. But anyway, let's get into the Cone Man himself. Cone Man music. Cone Man music always comes back to fruition. You know, especially when we lose like we did midweek. It's like, there you go. The Cone Man's back in full effect, people. But let's hope he restores the faith this week and we beat Newcastle. On his further analysis of Wednesday's defeat, he said, every time you have a defeat, it takes a few days to get over. The full focus is now on Newcastle. There are obviously things we can do much better in the game, especially the way we competed and the way we conceded goals. Let me zoom in a little bit on that. It's still a little bit, if you're watching on your phones, it's still probably quite zoomed out. We'll skip that. Honestly, it's been a long week. On if he has learned more about the depth of the squad. Good question. Every game is very different to the previous one. If you take your foot off the gas against the type of opponent, you get punished. As simple as that. So he's doing the politician thing, doesn't want to answer the question. On if he can welcome back any injured players, we have another training session today. He never answers that question, does he? He'll never tell you. Mickey Rose, the boss. Rose, that's my nickname. Yamming waffles, sipping syrup, need some Northern Magpie with additional fries and some Coman music. Big up yourself, Elliot. He said he's on the treadmill, I think he said. On Emil Smith-Rowe's injury, nothing has changed. As I said, he will be out for a few weeks. How many will determine in relation to how he progresses in the first few weeks. It's a big blow. He was getting some momentum and some minutes. We started to get the Emil we needed, but unfortunately he's going to be out again. One thing I've noticed with Mikel Arteta, whenever a player gets injured, he says he will be out for weeks. He said this last year about William Saliba. Saliba was out for 3 months, which, 3 months is 12 weeks. Saying you're going to be out for weeks is very... There's no real information. Oh, I'll be out for weeks. What, 2 weeks or 12 weeks? You know, he said Partey out for weeks. Gabriel Jesus weeks. Smith-Rowe weeks. Saliba was weeks. We didn't see him for 3 months. I don't like when he says this. I really don't. I really don't like it. It's too open. You know, anything. He could be out for months. So it's a knee injury. They're not saying what it is. Is it medial ligaments? You know, I don't know. Why do you never sing the next line? Come on, hey, Dominic, come on, relax yourself, man. We're righteous here. We can't sing that. Weeks, ESR, you won't see him till Feb. He doesn't know the word months. It sounds better saying weeks, so it tries to calm everyone down, does it? Win the Therapy Dog said, I don't believe it. ESR injury is straight cap. He said the same last year. ESR was called up for the under-21s. It's all cap until, well, let's see if he plays for England under-21s in the next international break. On Martin Odegaard benefiting from a rest, we have tried to offload him a little bit. He has a little issue with his that he was grumbling with. He felt much better. We gave him minutes against West Ham. His contribution was good. He will train today, and if he's fine, he'll be ready. I think Odegaard will start tomorrow. How he reflects on the start of the season, he said it's very early. We go game by game. We're in a good position, and we have to continue. Tomorrow we have a tough match against Newcastle. These are games you have to play when you want to be at the top. If he was concerned the standards dropped against West Ham, he said it dropped, especially in one phase in the second half. And when that happens, you have to compete in a different way to recover the momentum, and we didn't do it well enough. We know the standards, and we know the way we played, especially in the second half, was not good enough. I mean, listen, bro. He's talking about a phase in the second half. There's no phase. You know, we ain't talking about no phase. We were terrible. Probably after the first 15, 20 minutes of that game, we were awful. So I don't know where, you know, there was a slight phase in the second half. Nah, mate. We were poor after the first 20 minutes. So, listen, I'm glad he's admitting that the standards are dropped. He's not calling players out, which I don't expect from Arteta. He does like to protect his players. But them standards dropped way too low. On how much of a test he's expecting at Newcastle, a big one. It's one of the toughest places to go and win. We've done it, and it's nothing new. Let's skip it. And if the squad has the confidence to do that, he said, this is football, and the next game is the next game. Let's skip. On what he makes of the job Eddie Howe has done, he said, huge credit to him. And if there are similarities with the job he's done, he said, I don't know, every club is different. Let me just say, and I said this on yesterday's stream, you can't compare the job that Arteta has done to the one that Eddie Howe has done. Eddie Howe came in with a team in a relegation battle and within 12 months qualified for the Champions League and got to a cup final with a team that's nowhere near as good or as expensive as the one that we've got. Mikel has had 4 years and spent nearly 700 million, so you cannot compare the two. Eddie Howe has performed a miracle at Newcastle. Make no mistake about it. You know, with man like Dan Burn and Jacob Murphy and players like that, you know, we've got far better players than that. So, I'm not comparing the two. On if he's concerned about Kai Havertz's form now, they're the questions that need to be asked. He said, I'm not going to talk about any individual like that. We are a team, and when we play at our best, it's the team. And when we don't, I am the one who is responsible for that. We all need to try and improve every single day. I mean, you've protected him there. It's why I call him the Teflon Don. That's the Teflon Don right there, people. Mickey Rose. Rose. It's no coincidence. He don't want to mention him. He don't say his name. He don't say anything about his form. He don't want to talk about it. He ain't going to talk about it. Listen, I mean, Jake, I'm more than concerned about Kai Havertz's form. I'm ringing the fire alarm, bro. Yeah, we said yesterday, man, it was Ja Rule album settings, Pain is Love. We're going through a lot of pain with Kai Havertz, that is for sure. He'll say that it's love, though, Mikel Arteta. On inflated transfer fees for players, he said, I think there's been an evolution. I think we've gone from 10s to 20s to 80s to 100s. There have been players who cost 220 million. It's not as though we are getting used to it. It's something that is happening more and more often. Other players, other clubs we are doing. There is no comment on that. See, it's funny, they didn't print the full question in the transcript because I heard the question and he was asked about Ivan Toney and about the fact that players are going for 100 million. But in the transcript, they haven't written the whole question, which is very interesting. But yeah, that bit at the end where he said there is no comment on that is where he was saying, I'm not going to comment on, Ivan Toney, which, I learned asking him about Mbappe. You ain't going to get a comment out of him on that one. So we live and learn, people. On whether a manager takes into account the price tag, I mean, what kind of question is that? I mean, listen, I know I've been in these press conferences and, my question was a little controversial. But do you take the price tag into account? Oh, no, I don't. I just buy players for whatever they cost. Regardless of whether the owner can afford it. I mean, of course he has to take the price tag into question. There are mixed reports. People were saying Brentford wants 60, then they were saying 80, then they're saying 100. I think with negotiation, if you chuck them a player, you can get him for cheaper anyway. It's a ridiculous question. He said, first of all, it's what we can do to improve and whether we can afford it. On Ben White making his 100th appearance, I think he's progressed in the right way. Had a little bit of a difficult start, which is a big jump. He started to play let's skip it. Big up 100 appearances, though. On whether he's close to signing a new contract, we're always trying to keep the squad in a healthy position. The club and Edu are working on that. How important it is to have different characters. He said he's a really good character. The way he presents, but he loves football, the way he trains every day, the way he applies himself. Well, apparently he doesn't even watch football, so does he really love it that much? I suppose it's more important how he plays it than how much he watches it. It's a really boring press conference. I apologise. It's making me sleepy. On whether Gabriel Jesus will be back after the internationals, he said, I cannot guarantee that. We're trying to get his recovery done as quick as possible. I said it will be weeks, but it's difficult to put a time frame on it. I told you, weeks is just too open. These guys could be out for months. How disruptive are the injuries? He said, it's football. It's what happens. Let's skip it. On Eddie Nketiah's 100th Premier League appearance, he said he's earned that right. We tried to explain to him what his role is in the team and the opportunities he would have like any other player in relation to his performance. The fact he has played that many games is because of his own performances and the reason he is giving us to trust him. Cap, and more cap. Oh, dear, Eddie. I tell you what, he better not make it to 200 appearances at Arsenal. That's for sure. Get him to Brentford as part of the deal. On how we've improved our away form, he said belief and performances. Skip. How the midfield has evolved since Granit Xhaka left. Granit was a key player. He played nearly every game. We knew it was going to take time, just like it took some time, especially when I changed his role. There are a lot of questions. Then he evolved in a great way, and here it will happen the same. On Ifan Nwaneri and Miles Lewis-Skelly in the under-17 England squad, a big compliment to everyone in the club and academy who's raised them. They're excited. It will be an incredible experience. We wish them all the best. On playing at St James's, when you play football, you want to play in those atmospheres. How would he describe St James's? Incredible. On the title race, what's happened in the last 5 years is unprecedented. It never happened. The amount of points and the level of teams. Whether Tottenham are a title rival, they are there now. They merit to be where they are. So yes. Oh, that was really boring. Honestly, that was a boring press conference. The questions, the answers. It's like speaking to a robot. Full of waffle. We've ran out of syrup. Get it over with. I don't want to talk about it no more. Right. We're looking ahead to Newcastle tomorrow. So let's look at the potential starting lineup. And I want some interaction about what you think. Let me read these super chats quickly. GT Playboy, do you think we will get Toney in January? Hope rather than expectation. Because I think it will turn into an auction. And I'm not sure Arsenal will win the auction. I'm scared that he ends up at Chelsea. Because Chelsea need a striker. And Todd Bowley tends to buy what Chelsea need. Will we spend 70, 80 million in a January window? It's something we've never done. But we'll see. I think Toney wants to come to Arsenal, but Will we pay the money? I'm not sure. And he loves Eddie and he loves Jesus. Jorge said, Eddie Howe is going to hit us with the high press. We've got to play through it. The Cone Man said, I will sub myself on after Eddie's hat trick. SG said, Phase 5, win the dog will be the new striker. He'd probably be more useful than Eddie was the other day. And Cole said, how many goals does Eddie have in those 100 games? I'm not sure, but I'm pretty sure it's not enough. Anyway, let's get our starting lineup. What are we going for tomorrow? And also, what do we think the manager's going to go for? The goalkeeper is as clear as day. Day and night. What in the morning I can't sleep at night. Night. Da, da, na, night. Da, 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 da. Yo, that tune just popped in my head. Old school banger. David Raya, or Raya Martin as they call him on here. I think, listen, one Arsenal player's stock went up on Wednesday evening, and that was David Raya. Whether you're a Ramsdale fan or a Raya fan, that performance of Ramsdale did him no favours. I think you might not even see Aaron Ramsdale play for Arsenal again when you think Carabao Cup we're out. We don't play the FA Cup till January. I don't think he'll play in the league or in the Champions League. So David Raya will be in goal, that is for sure. Right back, Ben White, Benny Blanco. Ben, I don't watch football. He'll be at right back. Let's call him Benjamin. I think that's the best way his name pops up. Oh, maybe not. They put him Pavard up. Benjamin White? No. They're calling him Ben White. They're disrespecting him, people. Ben White, there we go. Left back, I think this is easy as well. Tomiyasu, mate. Zinchenko, no. He's in a bad situation at the moment. This guy is not performing. His defending leaves a lot to be desired. And up against Almiron, not for me. It's got to be Tomiyasu at left back. I think Tomiyasu's probably in... No, not Tomiyasu. Zinchenko is probably in his worst run of form since he's been at Arsenal, in my opinion. Defensively, he's getting picked off. And the problem now is that what he gives us on the ball is not enough to take what he's losing defensively. Could you play him in midfield, though? I don't think Zinchenko is finished at Arsenal. I just think you should look to possibly move him into midfield, which is his natural position. Jorginho ain't that guy. No, big up Denzer. He's definitely not that guy, and he won't be in my starting 11, that's for sure. Let's go to... Well, the centre-backs pick themselves. No doubt about that. Kiwior was all right the other night, but there's levels to this thing, bro. The Kiwi ain't ripe yet. I thought he played okay, but I'm still concerned that if we got a long-term injury to one of these two centre-backs, he's still a considerable drop-off, in my opinion. Now, in this midfield, Declan Rice, Martin Odegaard. The other one is up for debate. It really is. I mean, I would... ESR's injured, Nadeem. I was thinking of Trossard. But then, Trossard ain't going to play up front. I would potentially go Zinchenko or Trossard. I would go Zinni. I would actually play Zinchenko. I back him. I back him to play midfield. My front three, this is my team. This ain't what we're going to see. My front three would be Martinelli, Saka, and I'm going Trossard. I know he didn't play very well the other night, but people forget this guy got Player of the Month last year in, was it April? Playing up front, rotating with Martinelli. Remember the goal against Leicester where them two was rotating? It was superb. I think that team would win. Now, we know he ain't picking this team. So, this is my team, but he ain't going to pick this team. So, just look at it, take it in, give me your opinions, what you would play, and then we'll go to where Arteta's probably going to go. Now, I think Arteta will pick the same back five, the keeper and the back four. I think that's what he will pick. I'll take Zinchenko out of midfield. I don't think that's going to happen. And I'll take Trossard out up front. I think he'll play Eddie Nketiah up front. He scored a hat-trick last week in the league. He loves him. He's bigging him up in the press conference. The midfield one is interesting because this time last season we beat them and he played Jorginho with Xhaka. Will he play Jorginho with Rice to give us the double pivot? Or will he play Kai Havertz? I personally think he's going to play Jorginho because I think he worries about Newcastle's midfield with Joe Linton and Bruno Gomes and people like that. Very mobile, very active. So I think he'll put Jorginho in there with Rice to give us that a little bit more stability. Not that it is very stable. Let's keep it real. You know, he doesn't offer you much stability at all. But I think that's the team Mikel Arteta will play. I don't think he can get away with playing Havertz in midfield. And I think Eddie Nketiah will play. Scored a hat-trick last week. He'll run off that for the next 3 or 4 weeks before he decides to drop him. I think that will be the Arsenal team tomorrow. I'd be very surprised if it wasn't. I mean, Imran said, could Nelson play in the 8? I don't see it happening. Possibly he could, but Nelson can't even get in the team in his natural position, let alone play in a different position. Snake Eye said it's a crime to mention mobility and Jorginho in the same sentence. Leahy said he shouldn't play Jorginho. I think that trick will not work this time. I'd rather put El Neni to match Joe Linton and Bruno Gomes' energy. I actually totally agree with that. I actually would rather play El Neni than Jorginho because at least he can move, at least he can run, get about the pitch. Jorginho, the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle. I mean, what you got? Donatello, Raphael, Michelangelo, Leonardo, and Jorginho. But the only problem is they're all very quick. This guy ain't very quick. He's more like a tortoise than a Ninja Turtle. So yeah, Jorginho, man. I think this will be the team, but I agree. I wouldn't mind seeing El Neni over Jorginho. I wouldn't mind Zinchenko over him. And I wouldn't mind Trossard playing there if he plays Eddie up top. But I don't see it happening. I think this will be the team. Is it good enough to beat Newcastle? Listen, I always say if Jorginho's in your team, you've got to try and dominate possession. Because if you're defensively having to defend a lot, he is not somebody that you want to be chasing back and trying to tackle people. Like you said, Amo, you know, El Neni has not played a lot of football for a while. He hasn't started a game in a long time. So do you want him to go to Newcastle away, not fully fit, and start chasing after people like Joe Linton, who is a bit of a machine in midfield? Dr. Wagama said, let's admit it, players looking at the exit now, Ramsdale and Nelson. Listen, I'll be honest with you, I think there's more. I think ESR could be working his way towards that exit. I think Partey as well. I think there's a number of players that will move in January and in the summer. Anthony Taylor's been demoted to the Championship. 0.5 speed for J20, exactly. Well, I'd make him even slower. Snake Eyes, thank you for the super chat, bro. Hope your recovery is going well. He said, big up, Big C. I don't believe any of these injuries. Partey played for Ghana. Now he's injured. If Arteta does not win a trophy, he needs to go. I've got to admit, right, and I just want to, I know we spoke, anybody who didn't watch Arsenal Therapy last night, go back and watch that show. We really broke down a lot of opinions and a lot of facts. And with Arteta, I just feel like now, my concern, depending on what happens this season, he might win the FA Cup. Champions League and the league's going to be very difficult. Personally, I don't feel we're quite ready to win either one of those competitions, but stranger things have happened. You know, Leicester have won the league and teams like Porto have won the Champions League, although they had Mourinho and a lot of quality, Carvalho and Deco and players like that. I just worry now, has Arteta hit his ceiling? You know, I know a lot of people use that Brendan Rodgers comparison. I've used it myself. Some people think it's very disrespectful, but Brendan Rodgers at Liverpool was a fantastic coach. He delivered an amazing style of football. We felt the wrath of that when they beat us 5-1 at Anfield. I think Arteta actually played in that game. Sterling, Sturridge and Suarez front three with Gerrard behind it. Ripped us to bits. He wasn't quite able to win the league. Finished second to Man City. Didn't really win any other trophy. Struggled to manage big players, big personalities. And in the end, he sort of hit his ceiling. And for them to go to the next level, they had to say, right, got a good team, but need an elite manager. They got Klopp. Klopp sort of broke through that ceiling that Brendan Rodgers was stuck at They won the Champions League. They won the Premier League. They won the Carabao Cup. They won the FA Cup. They've won everything with Pep Guardiola still managing Manchester City. That achievement for me gets overlooked massively. What Jurgen Klopp has achieved at Liverpool is absolutely incredible when you consider that Pep's in this country. He's had other seasons where he's got 90 plus points and still not won the title. So it shows the level he's at. And I just keep thinking, can Arteta go to that next level? Time will tell. I think he'll get until the end of the season, and I've got no problem with them giving him till the end of the season. And I hope he does achieve it. But he's got to prove something this season, and that's why I was concerned about him throwing away the League Cup, because I think if you can't win the Prem or the Champions League, go and win an FA Cup, go and win a League Cup, and you know, start building towards those bigger ones. But we'll see. Time will tell. Your defence is in trouble, said Mamadou. Well, not that much trouble when Eddie's in the room. Mamadou said, I blame AFTV for lowering the standard. Listen, I think it's too easy to just blame a channel for the demise of Arsenal. Obviously, AFTV have a massive following and a big influence, so what they say can influence people. That's for sure. But it goes way deeper than that. You know, it goes way deeper than that, in my opinion. Let's talk transfers. We're being linked with a striker today, and it's not Ivan Toney today, actually. You can probably see it in the title and on the thumbnail. Some of you have already commented on it. If you know a lot about him, get in the comments, give me a rundown of him. Arsenal being linked today with a move for 20-year-old striker Benjamin Sesko, who plays for RB Leipzig over there in Germany. He's a Slovenian international. And he's being linked with a possible £40 million move to Arsenal in January. He was signed by RB Leipzig from their, you know, brother or sister club, RB Salzburg over there in Austria. He's 20 years of age. He's 6'4", so another big player, another target man. And listen, I'm just looking at some of his stats. I haven't watched him much, I'm going to be honest. I saw a Champions League game that he played this season, and I've watched some of his highlights. I don't know too much about him. This season, he's got 3 goals in his first 7 games in the league, 1 in 3 in the Champions League. Last year, he got 16 in 30. He's 20 years of age. I mean, listen, from what I've seen of him, it's... I don't know. I mean, Master of Disaster said he's a baller who'll cost closer to 60 or 70. My thing would be that the position that Arsenal are in right now, we need somebody to just come in and hit the ground running and be proven. Now, he might come to Arsenal, hit the ground running and just be a beast from day one. He does look good in the things that I've seen. I mean, Leahy said maybe we could swap Havertz for him, which is a good point. I think the concern and the problem you're going to always have with Kai Havertz, there aren't many teams in Germany that can pay £200,000 a week wages outside of maybe Bayern Munich. I don't know if Dortmund or Leverkusen or Leipzig pay those kind of wages. But yeah, I would take it as a swap deal. Is he the guy to come in straight away, up the level and help us? Are we looking... This is the other question you've got to ask yourself. As fans, we're just saying, get a number 1 striker, get somebody that's better than Jesus, get somebody that's better than Eddie Nketiah. Arsenal may be looking at it saying, we just want a different option that can come in and compete with those two. Not necessarily a first choice. If you sign Ivan Toney for 80, 90 million pounds, he's going to be your number 1 striker probably for that price. This would be a typical Arsenal move to get somebody that's cheaper, that's younger, that's probably easier to manage, that has not been involved in any controversy. You know, Toney is coming off the back of a betting ban. These moves probably suit Arsenal more. We've spoken about Santiago Jimenez, who is a tall striker who plays for Feyenoord. He looks good. Now, I've watched the 2 of them. I felt like Jimenez looks like you can get him for cheaper because Feyenoord, you know, their record sales are not, you know, huge. I think he would be cheaper, possibly, but you never know. Sesko has only just signed. Some people saying he'll cost more than 40 million. I mean, the report saying that they would potentially sell him for around 40 million. Jay Dime said 40 is a steal. For that, I'd take him over Ivan Toney. Let's get a poll up. Right? And I want to know your thoughts and opinions on some of the names that we've been linked with, not necessarily the ones that we'd necessarily go for. In the last few weeks, we've been linked with Ivan Toney, who I think would cost you 70, 80 million, right? Sesko, who would you sign as your new striker? So let's say Toney around... I think Toney end up costing 70, 80 million because I think Chelsea and teams like that will get involved. Let's say Sesko, 45 million. Even though they're saying 40, let's say clubs are in for him, it might cost a bit more. And Santiago Jimenez, who they were talking around 40 million, 45 million as well. So we'll say 45 million for him. I know a lot of you have said this guy Bonyface, is it? But we haven't really been linked with him that much. Brentford want 100 million now. Listen, the thing you've always got to understand, though, if you're selling your car for 10 grand, do you list it for 10 grand? Probably not. You list it for 12 grand. See if you get any offers. You list it for 11, then maybe you put it up for 10. So Brentford can say they want 100 million all they like. He's your best player, your prized asset. He's got 18 months left on his contract. Clubs can easily sit there and go, do you know what? We'll give you 50 for him in the summer. And then what are you going to do? It's Brentford. They're still not a big club in the Premier League. They still haven't made a lot of money from player sales. If clubs want to really be stubborn, they can be stubborn. I don't think they can get 100 million for Ivan Toney unless we get an auction type situation in January and Arsenal offer 70 and Chelsea offer 80 and somebody offers 90 and they end up getting 100 for him. I don't think that's going to happen. I think clubs will be looking at it going, listen, he's just come off a 6-month betting ban. He's not going to be match fit, right? He's had controversy around him and his contract runs out in 18 months. You are not getting 100 million for him. Yeah, you're not getting that. And he's also 27 years of age. Henok said, none of the above. Bring me Osimhen. Osimhen's going to cost you 130, 140, and you're probably not getting him till the summer. Arsenal, for me, need a striker now. They need a striker right now. Monty said, I think he goes to Chelsea. That's what I unfortunately believe will happen. Chelsea don't care. Chelsea will give him a 7-year deal, 5-year deal. He's on 90 grand a week. They'll go, yeah, 220. 5-year contract. They'll go to Brentford, West London rivals. They'll go, we'll give you 80 million, most of it up front. You don't have to move house. Brentford's not far from Chelsea. I think he ends up there, but I really hope he ends up with us. John Layat saying Ollie Watkins. I mean, Watkins, I think, would be difficult to get and expensive because he's just signed a new 4-year contract. I don't think they would sell him in January. Villa are having a good season. Master of Disaster, Thomas Frank quotes. He said, I hope Ivan Toney doesn't leave in January. I want him to stay, and Ivan is happy to stay. He is happy at the club. What happens in the future is impossible to guess. Listen, I saw the interview where he said those quotes, and I very much felt like Thomas Frank's been told by the owner of Brentford, listen, if somebody offers X, Y, and Z in January, you are going to lose Ivan Toney. And that's the reality of the situation. If they see 70 million down on the table, Ivan Toney's going, regardless of what the manager says, right? They haven't got enough big assets to turn down that kind of money. They will take it. Toney won't sign a new deal in the summer. Young Gunner said, I believe Arteta I believe that Arteta making us more rigid hinders our attack. Odegaard, Saka, Martinelli haven't looked as prolific. Our transition is much slower. And that's a fantastic point. And I believe there's a couple of factors that are influencing that. Number one is the midfield. Last season, we dominated midfields that we played against. Thomas Partey, Xhaka, Odegaard, and Zinchenko dropping in. We ended up with 4 players in midfield. Zinni was playing well. Partey is a very underrated passer of the ball. He gets the ball forward quick. Xhaka was playing well. Odegaard was cooking. Add to that as well, Martinelli, Jesus, Saka, we were consistently getting that front three on the pitch. There's no doubt Odegaard plays better, Martinelli plays better, Saka plays better when Jesus is the striker. He links up well. This season, we haven't got that. Zinni is out of form, Partey is injured, Xhaka's gone, our midfield's not quite as good. And that front three has played one time, I think, together as a front three. Now you've got Havertz, you've got Jorginho, you've got Nketiah. It's all dysfunctional now. It's not the same. So I think that's why we are more rigid. And it's concerning because, you know, we don't look as good going forward. Guy LXRP said, Sesko is 6'5", fast and both-footed. Arteta out. I wasn't expecting that at the end. But yeah, he looks like a beast. We'll have to see. It wouldn't surprise me if Arsenal went down that kind of road, spent 40, 50 million on a striker. Monty said the guy at Stuttgart, yeah, I was speaking about him, what's his name, Sarassi or something, who scored a hatful for Stuttgart. What's the guy's name, man? I forgot the guy's name. What's his name? I've got his name all wrong here, hasn't it? Somebody put it in the comments. You know the guy I'm on about anyway. He scored a hatful. Garassi, that's it, not Sarassi. It's been a long week, people. It really has. Yeah, but he's a one-season wonder, isn't he? So it's difficult. He's 27. He's never really had a prolific season, but he's got 14 goals in 8 games. He's top scorer in Bundesliga. Scored more than Harry Kane. His biggest season before that was 11 goals. So you've always got that concern, is this another Papi Cisse at Newcastle? You know, when he came into the Prem, he couldn't stop scoring goals. Everyone was like, he's a world beater. Within a year, he was done. He was doing nothing. So 20 million release clause. I think, 20 million euros. 17.5 million pounds. Monty's avatar is a little... Monty's doing me, man, when with the cone on my head. That was probably the time we was finishing 8th and that, and I was having absolute meltdown after meltdown. Listen, for me, get me Ivan Toney, right? I'm aiming as high. I want to go as high up that tree as possible. Top of the tree, probably Victor Osimhen. Do I believe Arsenal will spend £140 million on Victor Osimhen? I don't. I just don't think we're going to get him. I think too many other clubs will be in the race for him. I think the numbers will be too high. After that, I think you get me Ivan Toney for 70, 75 million. Prem proven, strong. He's a bully. He can score. He's got that nastiness about him. I think Watkins is all right, but I think he's too nice. And these other guys, Santiago Jimenez, Sesko, I'll be honest, I just haven't seen enough of them to say, okay, I think we should go for him. They look like, they're more like projects, in my opinion, than certainties, We need a winger as well, you're right. And obviously Neto's injured now. Big up Matt Southern I hope you're well, bro. He said, Tony. Offer up Cash Plus and Ketia. We really need to tighten up this attack. We don't frighten anyone in Europe. We are a lion without teeth. Listen, I would 100% offer Eddie and Ketia in that deal because I think Brentford, if they lose Tony, they would need a striker. And I think Eddie and Ketia is probably good enough to play for them. So it would be interesting. Big up Matt Southern Gooner. Make sure you go and subscribe to him. And big up for tuning in. Henok said, Big C, I'm wondering why Nketiah doesn't get injured. The best players do. I always say that. It's the bad players that stay fit all the time. You always see Cedric available and Eddie Nketiah and Havertz. Peter Nolan said, sell Ramsdale in January and give David De Gea a 6-month contract as backup to Raya. I mean, business-wise, it would make sense. If somebody offered crazy money for Ramsdale, I'd cash in on him, personally. If somebody offered 50 million for Ramsdale, I'd get rid of him because he ain't going to play this season. Raya's the number one. A Lion Cubmore, like said Cincinnati. Let me end the poll. Let me end that poll. More polls than an ATL strip club, people. Although I haven't done many polls, actually, in the last few streams. Ivan Toney is the clear winner, 57%. 24% say Sesko. And 16% say Santiago Jimenez. Those players look good, but I think people are just at the point now. They want to see a proven player come through the door rather than a project. I'm sick of seeing project youth. I'm sick of people telling me he's the new Bernardo Silva, Fabio Vieira, or he's the new this, the new that. How often do they become the new player that we're naming them? You know, Sambi was the new Yaya Toure. He's not the new Yaya Toure. So De Gea's wages would be ridiculous, said Cello. But he's a free for 6 months, and I don't think he would get those wages he was getting at Man United. Listen, people, thank you very much for tuning in today. Short and sweet today, 50 minutes. I'm going to round up now. I am back tomorrow, 4:30 for the watch-along UK time, 5:30 kickoff, and I'll be live on Bleacher Report straight after. I'll put the link in the description for tomorrow's watch-along. One thing's for sure, it's going to be a big game. It's going to be a difficult game. And it will tell us a lot about this team. We had a very bad result in the week. If they can bounce back, go to Newcastle and win, bear in mind we play Burnley next weekend at home. I would expect us to win that. It's a good turnaround. We'd still be unbeaten and would be top of the Premier League. If we get beat or draw, all of a sudden, it is panic stations. Big up to everyone for tuning in. Make sure you like the video on the way out. Have a blessed Friday. And looking forward to the watch along tomorrow. And I will see you all tomorrow, people. Bless.